Level 1, First Contact. You are now a SWAT officer positioned behind an armored rescue vehicle at the edge of a quiet suburban street, preparing to serve a high-risk warrant on an armed suspect barricaded inside a two-story house. Your role is to help secure the entry team, protect nearby civilians, and prevent anyone from escaping while every movement is coordinated under strict command. A teammate checks your body armor and confirms your radio channel as your carbine hangs ready across your chest. Nearby officers quietly establish containment positions, a negotiator monitors an open line, and patrol units redirect anxious residents away from the scene while the distant hum of police vehicles fills the neighborhood. Fresh footprints cross the damp front yard. A discarded backpack rests beside a fence, and command reports that security cameras inside the house have suddenly gone offline. The silence feels deliberate rather than empty. Then your earpiece crackles with a tense update. The suspect has stopped responding, and thermal surveillance suggests someone inside has just moved toward an upstairs window. Moments later, a voice on the radio cuts through the comm. Hold, he may have visual on one of our positions. Level 2, Crossing the Perimeter. Your team receives the order to move, and you leave the protection of the armored vehicle to enter the inner containment zone surrounding the house. The moment you cross the police tape, every step carries greater responsibility because any mistake could expose the entry element before the operation even begins. You advance along the narrow side yard with another SWAT officer covering the upper windows while you monitor the fence line and rear access. Garden walls, parked vehicles, and dense shrubs provide concealment, but they also create blind spots that force slower, deliberate movement. A frightened homeowner from the neighboring property is quietly escorted away as command updates everyone's positions through short, disciplined radio calls. A faint creak comes from the second floor. Then another. You catch the unmistakable sound of footsteps pacing just beyond the wall, close enough to judge their direction. You must decide whether to continue toward the rear corner for a better angle or hold your position and avoid revealing your movement. Before you can act, command transmits a tense warning. Stand by, the suspect has just opened an upstairs curtain. Level 3, Holding the Angle. You commit to the rear approach, slipping through the narrow passage between the house and a wooden fence until you reach the backyard, where your position becomes critical to preventing any escape. Your responsibility is no longer observation alone. You are now covering the team's blind side while the entry element quietly prepares for a possible breach. Dense shrubs, a storage shed, and a raised deck restrict every line of sight, forcing you and your partner to communicate through brief hand signals instead of words. Command reports that the suspect has stopped moving again, but another officer monitoring the front observes a shadow passing across an upstairs window in the opposite direction, suggesting deliberate counter-surveillance. You freeze as the rear door handle turns slightly before stopping. A flashlight briefly shines through the glass, sweeping across the deck only a few meters from your position. Your hand tightens around your weapon, but you resist the urge to move or reveal yourself. Seconds later, the radio breaks the silence with urgent news. Another exit has just been found unlocked, and the containment plan must change immediately. Level 4, Breach under watch. The unlocked rear exit changes the entire operation. Your team is reassigned to support a covert rear breach before the suspect can exploit the opening, leaving fewer officers to maintain the perimeter. From this point forward, every movement must balance speed with absolute control because a single mistake could place fellow operators directly in the line of fire. You stack beside the back entrance with 3 teammates as the breacher quietly positions the hydraulic tool against the reinforced door. Through your earpiece, command reports conflicting information from surveillance. Someone is moving rapidly between rooms, deliberately avoiding the windows, making it impossible to predict where resistance will come from. The narrow service corridor beyond the door offers almost no cover, while furniture and tight corners threaten to hide both danger and innocent occupants. Just as the breach begins, the door swings inward unexpectedly. A figure lunges through the opening, colliding with the lead operator. You immediately drive the person against the exterior wall, fighting to control their hands without firing, while another teammate secures the entry. The struggle lasts only seconds before the individual is restrained and identified as a frightened resident trying to escape. Before anyone can regain momentum, a sharp voice over the radio cuts through the confusion. Suspect moving upstairs. All teams, priority has changed. Second floor now. Level 5, stairwell collision. The priority shifts to the second floor, and your element moves from containment to direct intervention. Sweat gathers beneath your helmet as you climb the narrow staircase behind the shield operator, knowing every room above could conceal the armed suspect or a terrified civilian. Your objective is no longer simply preventing an escape. It is helping end the standoff before anyone else is hurt. The upstairs hallway is cramped, lined with closed bedroom doors, overturned furniture, and family photographs that make the danger feel uncomfortably personal. Radio traffic grows heavier as command reports no thermal signature in the expected room, forcing every team to reconsider the suspect's location. The uncertainty becomes as dangerous as the weapon you know he still possesses. A frightened teenager suddenly bursts from a side bedroom, disoriented and crying. You immediately pull them behind the ballistic shield while another operator guides them toward the staircase. That brief rescue delays the advance, but leaving them exposed is not an option. As your team reforms, a bedroom door at the far end slams open. You lock eyes with the suspect for the first time. Before either of you can fully react, he rushes toward the hallway, colliding with the shield operator in a violent struggle. You grab his arm as he fights to break free, forcing him away from the staircase while another officer secures control of the weapon. Your sleeves tear against the rough wall, your gloves scrape across broken plaster, and your breathing becomes ragged before the suspect twists free and disappears through an attic access hatch. The radio erupts with a new order. He's above you. All teams, attic containment now. The mission has entered its most dangerous phase. You steady your breathing, tighten your gloves, and check your radio one more time. If you're still with me, keep watching. He's waiting above us. Level 6, attic pursuit. You climb into the attic immediately behind the shield operator, leaving the familiar layout of the house for a cramped maze of exposed beams, loose insulation, and unstable flooring. Your uniform is coated with dust, your gloves are torn from the struggle below, and every controlled breath reminds you that the mission has already left its mark. Instead of rushing forward, you pause long enough to study the disturbed insulation and broken spider webs stretching between the rafters. The suspect is no longer simply hiding. He is choosing routes that avoid noise and visibility. You quietly redirect your teammate toward a narrow support beam, anticipating where someone desperate would try to escape rather than following the obvious path. A sudden crash echoes from the far end of the attic. Two officers move toward the sound, but you hold your position after noticing fresh footprints leading in the opposite direction. Seconds later, command confirms another attempted movement near the roofline, validating your decision. Experience now guides you more than instinct. As you edge toward a small access opening, a loose board shifts beneath your boot. Before the sound can carry, a teammate catches your shoulder, steadying you without a word. Moments later, the suspect lunges from behind a chimney support, trying to force past the narrow passage. You drive him sideways into the rafters, fighting to pin his arms just long enough for the rest of the team to close the gap. He twists free again, leaving splintered wood and fresh bruises behind as he crawls toward a roof escape. Then command delivers the update everyone feared. Drone unit confirms rooftop movement. Outer containment is repositioning. He knows exactly where we're trying to trap him. Level 7, rooftop interception. You emerge through the attic hatch onto the steep rooftop, where every movement must be deliberate. Loose shingles shift beneath your boots, the afternoon heat radiates from the tiles, and a single misstep could send you sliding into open view or over the edge. Without waiting for instructions, You move toward the roof's highest ridge instead of following the damaged path the suspect wants you to chase, cutting off his most likely escape route. The containment teams below adjust instantly to your position while the drone circles overhead, feeding command a constantly changing picture of the roofline. Patrol officers seal neighboring yards, but the suspect keeps altering direction whenever another escape route closes. You realize he is reading the team's movements almost as quickly as they are reading his. The suspect suddenly appears only a few meters away, scrambling across the opposite slope toward a connecting garage roof. You wait until he commits to the jump before moving, denying him the chance to react. As he lands awkwardly, you collide shoulder first into him, both of you crashing against the gutter in a desperate struggle for balance. He grabs your vest, trying to pull you down with him, while you lock one arm around the railing and force his weapon away from your body. Every second drains your strength before another operator reaches the roof edge and helps break the struggle. The suspect tears free once more, abandoning the firearm as he smashes through a second-story window into the neighboring house. A stunned voice comes over the radio. Structure breach, possible occupants inside. Rules of engagement have changed. Nothing about this mission will remain the same now. Level 8, House of Unknowns. The moment the suspect crashes through the neighboring window, the operation changes completely. What was once a controlled barricade now becomes a hostage-risk search inside an occupied home, where every room may contain frightened civilians instead of clear threats. The original containment plan is abandoned, and speed can no longer come before identification. You enter through the shattered window behind another operator, stepping into a hallway littered with broken glass, overturned furniture, and drifting drywall dust. Your torn gloves offer little protection as you steady yourself against the wall, your bruised shoulder reminding you of the struggle on the roof. Radio traffic becomes fragmented as multiple teams report possible movement from different floors, forcing command to divide resources and leaving every element with less support. A terrified elderly resident appears at the end of the corridor, frozen in confusion. Rather than rushing past, you quietly guide them into a locked bathroom and signal another officer to secure their safety before continuing. The delay costs precious seconds, but abandoning them would risk everything the mission stands for. As you advance, you notice the suspect has stopped fleeing in a straight line. Instead, he is using the occupied rooms, narrow hallways, and blind corners to dictate the pace of the pursuit. You deliberately ignore the nearest doorway, anticipating the route that offers him the greatest concealment rather than the shortest escape. Moments later, he bursts exactly where you expected, forcing a brief struggle that drives both of you against a collapsing bookshelf before he slips away through a damaged interior wall. Then the update arrives that changes the endgame. Basement access confirmed, no exterior exit. This ends below ground. Level 9, Basement Containment. You descend the narrow basement stairs with measured steps, resisting the urge to rush after the suspect. The cramped staircase funnels every operator into the same confined space, making discipline more valuable than speed. Your uniform is streaked with dust and torn fabric. Your shoulder aches with every controlled breath, yet your movements remain steady because experience now dictates every decision. The basement opens into a maze of storage rooms, exposed pipes, and concrete support walls where visibility disappears after only a few meters. Instead of following the freshest footprints, you study the scattered boxes, disturbed insulation, and fresh scrape marks on the floor, recognizing the route that offers the suspect the greatest chance to ambush pursuing officers. Quiet hand signals redirect your teammates into overlapping positions before anyone enters the next corridor, silently shaping the encounter instead of reacting to it. A frightened homeowner calls from behind a locked utility room. You assign 2 officers to secure them while the remaining team maintains pressure, accepting the temporary reduction in manpower rather than risking innocent lives. Moments later, the suspect attempts to burst through a side passage exactly where you anticipated. Rather than meeting force with force, you pivot behind a concrete pillar, deflect his momentum, and pin him just long enough for another operator to close the escape route. He breaks free again, but only deeper into the unfinished mechanical room where every remaining exit is already covered. The radio falls silent for a single heartbeat before command delivers the order everyone has been working toward. All perimeter units locked. Final containment confirmed. Resolve the threat. Level 10, Final Resolution. You enter the unfinished mechanical room, knowing there are no more fallback positions. Concrete pillars divide the space into narrow lanes, exposed pipes rattle overhead, and the suspect has only one remaining route that leads toward a reinforced service door already covered by another SWAT element. Your uniform is torn, your shoulder burns with every movement, your gloves are shredded, and your breathing is heavy, yet your focus has never been clearer. Instead of rushing into the center of the room, you hold your position behind a support column and listen. The silence lasts only seconds before you hear a slow shift of loose gravel behind a boiler housing. Rather than chasing the sound, you quietly reposition to the opposite side, anticipating the suspect's attempt to circle behind your team. A brief hand signal redirects another operator without a single spoken word. Months of training and everything this mission has demanded now come together in one disciplined decision. The suspect suddenly emerges, weapon raised, trying to force a final escape through the only gap left between the containment teams. You move only when he commits. Using the concrete pillar as cover, you deny his line of fire and close the distance from an angle he cannot easily counter. He crashes into you with enough force to drive both of you against the unfinished wall, and the struggle becomes a desperate contest for control of the weapon. Your bruised shoulder protests with every movement, but experience replaces panic. Instead of overpowering him, you trap his weapon arm against the rough concrete while rotating your body to remove his balance. Another operator instantly secures the firearm as you maintain control until handcuffs lock into place. For the first time all day, the radio traffic changes. The urgency disappears. Suspect in custody. Scene secure. Medical teams moving in. You step back, lowering your breathing before lowering your weapon. The basement is scattered with broken wood, shattered pipes, torn insulation, and the visible marks left by everyone who fought to end the confrontation without unnecessary loss of life. The frightened residents are safely escorted upstairs. Teammates exchange exhausted nods instead of celebration, and paramedics begin treating bruises, cuts, and exhaustion that no adrenaline can hide. Only then do you realize what changed most during the mission. You no longer react to pressure, you work through it. The operation is over. The consequences remain. Aftermath, the silence after. The house is finally quiet. Broken glass still covers the floors. Medical teams move calmly between exhausted officers, and investigators document every room while residents begin returning to spaces forever changed by a single afternoon. Your uniform is torn, your gloves are scraped through, and dried dust still clings to your body as you set your helmet on the armored vehicle for the first time since the operation began. A teammate offers nothing more than a tired nod. It is enough. You take one last look toward the now secured house, listening to the ordinary sounds of the neighborhood slowly returning, and realize the mission will remain with you long after the scene is cleared. You walk away changed.